On major anniversaries of the battle, the Canadian sacrifice is remembered with full military honors.
Dad was a very quiet person. He never talked too much about his ordeals of the Battle of Hong Kong.
My father never told me. I didn't know any of this. He didn't really want to share some of the atrocities, and he did not write a lot of that in his diary either.
I asked my dad on his deathbed, actually, I said, why didn't you ever talk about what happened? I figured that was my last chance. And he looked at me and he said, Jerry, they just didn't believe us. They just didn't believe what they had to do to survive.
But the battle should never be forgotten, because these people were constantly beaten, constantly underfed, and they were forced, and I mean forced, to work at no cause.
C'est important qu'on comprend que 25% des hommes-là étaient des Canadiens français, tous des volontaires. C'est très important de savoir ça.
Canadian soldiers were volunteers.
Being an Indigenous kid in a native reserve and going saying, this is where I want to go, I'm going to war. You learn a lot about the process and how they got themselves involved in the Canadian military. The fact that at the time, they didn't have the right to vote as Canadian citizens. You know, it was just out of, I guess, emotions and just wanting to help and wanting to do something for their country. And I found that amazing. They had to sign special documents because they weren't technically Canadian citizens.
After looking back after 80 years, the story of Hong Kong is not how the Canadians were defeated in the Battle of Hong Kong against impossible odds, but how bravely they fought for the island and how bravely they behaved in the prison camps.
My grandfather, should say, Pat Metallica, was somebody people looked up to. When he died, I remember going to his funeral and hearing a trumpet play taps for the very first time in my life. It touched me. I had a lot of respect for veterans, because I know the veterans are slowly leaving. And I said, what's going to happen after? Well, who's going to tell the stories? Who's going to show the pictures and explain?
My fight, I guess I could say, is to keep the flame alive for the remaining veterans that we have.
It's history, and it needs to be told. We have an ongoing struggle and / responsibility to tell people about the Battle of Hong Kong.